whoever is listening is literally thinking right at this point after a couple of those episodes, do these guys even know what a podcast is? How it's supposed to be like?
It's a game show.
A game show? For real?
Life Math, the game show.
Life Math, a podcast undescribably tangled, unnecessarily complex, so bad that it's good. Life Math.
Welcome everybody. This is our last episode of season 1. Of course, it has a completely new format and it is basically a game show. We're gonna have a competition about which number is the best. In the past, Iskren and I, we've had these brief discussions about which number is actually the best, and by number we usually mean digits because numbers that have more than one digit are basically made up in a way from digits.
Like they participated in the competition, they just lost bad.
Yeah. In this game show, we are gonna take the numbers until 10 inclusive and we are gonna compare them and we're gonna root for them or we're gonna bash them because they're bad numbers. And by the end of the show, we want to have the definite winner, the undisputed champion of which number is actually the best. Many cultures have had this discussion before. You know, you have strong competitors like 0, 1, 3, 5, 7.
2, 4, 5.
They all have their strengths and weaknesses. And now we're gonna explore them. The show is gonna work like this. There are several rules. First, no more than 5 minutes per number. Now, some numbers don't even deserve 1 minute of discussion, but there are others which deserve much more, but we have to maintain ourselves. So this is rule number 1, no more than 5 minutes per number. Rule number 2, we're gonna split the numbers between ourselves. I'm gonna pick 5 or 6 numbers, maybe 5. Iskren is gonna pick another 5, and we can maybe discuss the last number together. The odd one left, whatever it is.
An air of mystery.
Finally, either of us can choose whether to root for the number that we've picked or to bash it real hard.
It could be somewhere in between. To be fair.
It could be somewhere. No, man. It's not gonna be in between.
Yeah, this is a ruthless battle, actually. Also, it's interesting at this point, everybody listening definitely has thought, well, obviously the number X is the best number ever, and the number Y is the worst number ever. Like, everybody has a favorite and a least favorite number. Anyway, let's get into it.
Please, guys, pick your favorite number, and let's see if it makes the cut. In the beginning, we're gonna split the numbers. I have this piece of paper. So I'm writing down all the numbers from 0 to 10. All the participants in this competition. And now we're gonna start picking them. So, Iso, which number do you wanna present?
Right, I am gonna start with the number 8. I'll pick 8.
You pick 8. Wow.
Spoiler alert. That's gonna be the harshest bash you've seen.
Okay, I'm gonna pick the number 6.
Ooh. Well, a strong contender is 6. I'm gonna pick 4.
I'm gonna present number 2. Your turn.
Oh, I'll pick 7.
I was thinking about picking it. Okay. I'm gonna pick the number 5.
Okay, I'm gonna pick 1.
Expected. Okay, no, I'm gonna get the 0.
We're going to the 0. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the 3.
Okay, take the 3. And
like we speak as if this makes sense.
okay, I'm gonna pick number 9, and then number 10 is the odd one left, even though it's not odd.
Oh god, terrible jokes. Here we go.
Let's start from number 1.
Woo woo woo! Give it up for 1!
Number 1. Number 1 has been Isu's choice, and Isu is gonna present it. We're gonna be discussing it for 5 minutes tops. In the beginning, he's gonna have the opportunity to present it, to root for it, or to bash it, and I will have my opportunity to contradict Isu's strong points. Yeah, so why do you think number 1 is the best number?
Alright, so actually, number 1, I think, is the perfect example of those numbers that you can both root for and bash a bit. Now, I'll tell you why. So, number 1, such a strong contender for best number ever. Just listen. You always start counting from 1. 1, 2, 3. Every kid knows 1, 2, 3. How old are you? I'm 1 year old. It's the best number in this regard. So, all counting starts from 1. Then, for any other number to be defined in those like more abstract, pure math senses, you define all the numbers by extensions of 1. So say 2 is just 1 plus 1, etc. So all other numbers are generated by 1 through addition. Separately, for multiplication, it's the unit of multiplication, meaning that any number multiplied by 1 is itself. So it's this pivotal number in addition and multiplication and counting and everything. It's just an amazing number. Another point for it, think about rankings. For example, you give points to a bunch of people, like, I don't know, it's some race results or like teams in some tournament. You give them points, and then in the end, what do? You make a ranking of them, and number 1 is the winner because it's at the top. So number 1 is such a clear winner that this leads it to its downfall. What I mean, it's just too strong of a number. 1 has everything going for it, so we can't pick it as best number. It's just boring. It's too obvious. It's the obvious choice. Everything is going well for 1, so we cannot pick it. It's not edgy in any way. It's just so omnipresent that it's boring. So that's my preview of 1. What do you think?
I didn't want to pick 1 because I think it's so omnipotent that it's unfair to pick it, So shame on you for picking 1. Yeah, so it's as you said, such a clear winner of everything that we don't want to root for it. It's like the Djokovic and the Federer before him. So I can tell you another good one. So what is super cool about 1, in my opinion, is that you always have this discussion: is a number prime? Is it not prime? So on, and then 1 is neither. So to me, it's so cool to be out of this discussion, and I find it super rad to be a 1.
Even in philosophy, I'm thinking about like the ancient Greeks, 500 BC, Heraclitus talking about the one and how everything is the one and etc. It's literally winning at everything, so it cannot be our winner. Yeah, basically 1 wins at every possible competition we can think of, so it loses at our competition, just to introduce some sort of fairness to the universe. Okay, enough about 1. I think it's time for your presentation of number 2.
So number 2. Number 2. Give it up for number 2, guys.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Number 2 is an amazing number. Arguably one of the best numbers there are. It's in top 10 for sure.
At least top 10, yeah, exactly.
First of all, number 2 is the first real number in this competition. So we know that 1 is too cool for everything. So 2 is kind of fair to exist, kind of fair to make sense of this numerical system that we've chosen. And it's actually the first number after 1. So what is 2? 2 is simply twice as much as 1. So now 2 is also the first prime number. And prime numbers are very cool. Every mathematician ever is fascinated by prime numbers. 2 is the first prime number they are ever introduced to. So it's kind of what got them into prime numbers, if you think about it. Number 2. 2 is also even. All other prime numbers are odd. Another one, very strong for number 2, is that computer science as a whole uses 2 as a base. So it's derivative from the fact that 0 and 1 are before it, but it's still 2. And you have, when we say about 1 gigabyte, it's basically 1024 megabytes, which is 2 to the power of 10. And all of these computer science things, they're all based on number 2. It's very hard to make this point, but I have to make it. What else? So a tiny problem with number 2 is that when you write number 2 with the Roman numerals, it's basically 1 and 1, so it's a bit clumsy. It doesn't have its own sign. And if you take the Arabic numbers, not sure, the ones that most of us are using probably, it's one of the uglier ones. So I don't really like the symbol for number 2, but nonetheless, it has very strong fundamentals, guys. Number 2 is one of the strongest competitors in this game. It is just beautiful how it makes one fade a bit.
Okay, so I gotta add to this description of 2 that kind of when you have just 1 in your system, you've only reached 1. You haven't really introduced addition as a concept, whereas 2 is the first number that shows what addition is. You know, you have 1, just 1, and then it shows you how 1 and 1 you can create something new. It shows you how you can combine numbers through addition to create larger numbers. So once you have 1 and 2, you have kind of the recipe to make larger numbers through addition. So that's pretty cool. That's a very cool point for 2. So overall, I don't have much to add about 2. It's just a very good number. It also gives it starts the whole row of even numbers. So it shows it introduces to the canvas what is it to be even, and then the whole infinite line of even numbers. So 2 is pretty strong.
Yes, indeed. It is. Number 2 is basically a definition of being even. So every other even number is determined by the fact that 2 exists and could be divided by 2.
Not just that, odd numbers are then defined as, not even. So they're also defined by the number 2. So 2 defines both odd and even numbers.
Strong points. So far, if we had to cut our show short, and if you had to rank them number 1 and number 2, would they be 1 and 2? Very good. They are very good team, 2 and 1. Are you ready for the next one?
It seems to be time for my 3.
Or would you like some break before you introduce 3, or you're ready for it?
Oh, what is this? 3 is breaking onto the stage. 3 is carrying a metal chair. 3 just slammed 2 off the ring and is making its claim for best number of our row. Okay, what can we say about 3? 3 is pretty cool in the following way. We saw 1 being the first odd number, 2 being the first even number, and also being the first prime number. So what is 3? 3 shows that there is something else, something different, because 2 was built by just adding 1 and 1 together, but then adding 2 and 2 together is 4. So what is 3? It shows that in this recipe of addition that we're learning about now, it shows that you can combine different members, because so far, if we've reached only 2 in our row, we know that there exists a 1, and we know that we can add 2 identical items, 2 1s, to make a 2, which makes addition super boring. It only allows you to count as 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Whereas introducing 3 as 1 plus 2 actually shows that, addition works for different objects as well. And that kind of makes addition meaningful. Before that, addition is kind of boring, just 1 plus 1 plus 1. So that's what 3 does. Now afterwards, 3 becomes super cool. We'll see a bit down the line, because 2 and 3 are those building blocks for multiplication. But overall, as we'll see when we get to 6, 2 and 3 are actually very similar. 2 and 3 are the 2 faces of the same coin, the 2 sides of the same coin. So 3 is a very cool. And one last point, just one closing point. You know how you said it when you write with Arabic numerals 2? It's not the prettiest of numbers. It's not the most clean of numbers. 3, super beautiful to write. It's very clean to write a 3. It's very recognizable. It's super clean. So 3 is a winner. 3 is a better 2. That's my take on 3.
I must agree that 3 is a very good number. Something I want to add is that 3 has a lot of culture backing it up. You know, every king has 3 sons, every king has 3 rings, and every king has also 3 daughters. Every dragon comes in like with 3 heads or whatever. Khaleesi from Game of Thrones has 3 dragons as well. And you know, 3 is a very strong number. In Christianity, you have like the 3 faces. You have God, His Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's the Holy Trinity.
I just realized, sorry to interrupt, but I just realized the best part about 3, I didn't even say it. I did a very poor job of presenting it. It's the best number for the following reason. We live in a 3D space. Everything is 3-dimensional. And what's important about this as well is that, kind of on a similar but separate line, 3 points make a triangle, which defines a surface, right? So to define a surface, you need exactly 3 points, no fewer, no more. And that just makes 3 very, very special, for our universe, for our reality especially. It's just 3-dimensional.
Can't argue with that.
At the end of this, intro into 3, we just gotta add this message like, this broadcast has been brought to you by Thriveta.com.
Is it time for another commercial break? I knew that 3 managed to bribe you. Oh, okay. Oh, I can hear the bells. The bells ringing. The Holy Trinity. This is the stamp of approval that 3 is the best number there.
This is the omen we're looking for. Now literally the Catholic Church has said, yes, son, 3 is the number to choose. We can pause actually right now it goes on for 1 minute and it's very loud.
But why doesn't it go for 3 minutes? There's one more point I want to add for 3. So sorry that I'm such a devoted follower of 3. Every good book sequence or every good movie sequence, it always comes in 3s, right? It's either 1 or 3, but the good ones, they come up in 3s, in trilogies. So a trilogy is very good, and that's why this is another reason why 3 is good. So one thing on its own is very good. 2 things, if they come up together and 2 of them are good, it may be a coincidence. But if 3 of them are good, it's a pattern. So 3 defines a pattern, and it's the first number which shows that something is not random. And that's why I think 3 is super cool.
This actually is related to a topic that I absolutely love just by itself as a topic. I wrote my admission essay to, I think, Cambridge on it, which is error correction codes. And super relevant in quantum computation in particular, but also in just regular computation and communication. And it's the concept that, if we two are somehow communicating with, a telegraph, like I'm just sending you, zeros and ones, and but if the connection is a bit untrustworthy, like if it drops, if it corrupts a bit, like, I sent you a 0, but there's a small chance you actually receive a 1 because it got corrupted. How do we protect against this non-fidelity of the physical implementation? And there's different strategies, and the most basic strategy ever, which especially for classical computers, non-quantum computers, works super well, is just the repetition code, which is, well, if you gotta send a bit, send it 3 times, and then the receiver receives 3 bits and takes a majority vote. And you always get, at least 2 of them will be the same, so you take this as the correct answer. And the chance that all 3 of them got, the chance that at least 2 of them got corrupted gets very, very low. So it's basically, it's basically negligible. So yeah, the most basic repetition code, error correction code, is the triple.
I have to support the 2 here. So 2 is a pair. So 2 introduces a pair while 3 introduces a majority. So
yeah.
that's something to sink in. Like, do you want to be democratic like the 2, or do you want to take decisions fast like a 3?
4. Okay. What do we have for 4? 4, very cool number for many reasons. It is 2 plus 2. So already, how 2, we said 2 is very strong. 2 has a lot of things going well for it. 2 is a very good number. Now think of 4. It's everything but better. It's everything 2 but better. It's 2 plus 2. It's 2 times 2. It's in every way flexing on 2 like there's no tomorrow. It's an amazing number. And also in those mythologies and spirituality and stuff that you were saying about 3, 4 is also there, but in a different way. All of those kind of tables, if you just draw a plus sign, essentially you're making a table with 4 cells. And this is such a powerful object in just thinking about stuff. Whenever you're making some sort of analysis, you just make kind of a small 2x2 table, and that's it. You have 4 options. You have a lot of expressive power of modeling in 2. What else can we say about 4? Something negative actually that has always bothered me. For me, how you said it for 2, the way it's written in Arabic numbers, it's kind of not very pretty. This has always bothered me for 4. I think 4 is the worst number to write. Not just that, it's not very uniform how you write it, because, a 3, everywhere in the world you write 3 the exact same way. 4, some people write it like a triangle with a leg on the right side. Some people write it like open-ended to the top. People write 4 in various ways.
Some people write like a glass.
Like a glass, yeah, it's a good way to say. 4 doesn't even have, it's such a fundamental digit, and it's already so overlooked that it doesn't even have a single unified way to write it, to depict it. That's just offensive, It's just sad for the 4. He has a lot of potential. It's 2's bigger brother who has everything that 2 has, and we disrespect it by not unifying the way we write 4. I think 4 is underrepresented.
The Romans, they also did not agree on how to write 4. So that's either the number 1 4 times, or it's like 1 5, which is basically 5 minus 1. I'm really not sure how to explain this on a podcast, but there is controversy to how to write a 4 even before. It's cursed, man.
Yeah, so 4 is just like, it's very, very tough, it seems, for humanity to decide how to write a 4, even though it's such a powerful number. And also the first square, it introduces the concept of squares. Now, there could be an argument that 1 is the first square because 1 times 1 equals 1. But this is a classic 1 move. Like, come on, how boring are you to exemplify being a square by being the square yourself? That's such a 1 move, That's why I pick 4 as the first true square. Okay, I think that's my overview of 4. What do you think?
Very strong competitor, very strong. Several things I have to add. So first is the second even number. It shows this kind of pattern of even numbers. So if 1 and 3 were odd numbers, 2 and 4 are even numbers. So it kind of gives a hint to 2, like exemplifying even numbers. And it does it in a spectacular way. It's like 2 plus 2, 2 times 2, as you said. It's a square. It's the first number which is not 1 or not prime. So how do you code these numbers? It's
composite numbers. Composite numbers?
Composite number.
I think so.
Yeah, so 4 is the first composite number. So it basically introduces this concept of we can build new numbers by multiplying numbers that we have already had. And this is a fundamentally new idea, right? So far we were just like adding stuff, and we're like, oh, 3, you're so cool. Like I can add 2 different numbers and I can reach you. But 4 is like you can multiply 2 different numbers and you can have a whole new number with so many different properties. And the fact that it's a square.
Oh, wait, though. You can multiply the same number so far, though. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh yeah, but one times one we already discussed. It's like non-negotiable. 2 times 2, it's 4.
Yeah, but it's still multiplying the same number, right?
Yeah, one has infiltrated you. One is like I'm here and I'm there and I'm everywhere, but not in 4. In 4 as well, but but 4 could be something else, and it's 2 by 2.
So overall, 4, pretty cool. It's the first time we defined a real proper square. Yeah, okay. Let's close number 4. Are you ready to present 5? I'm waiting for 5 at the door just to bash it. No, it's gonna make one step into the ring, and I'll just smash 5.
Okay, crowd. Are you ready for number 5? Number 5 is the first number after 3, which is odd.
Boo.
It is the third number after 2 and 3, which is prime. It could be basically divided by itself and 1 as a prime number. It could be reached by addition in some ways. And overall, that's everything which is interesting about 5. So 5 brings nothing new to the table. If we assume that 3 makes a pattern, yeah, 5 is the third prime number. Good job, 5. You just reintroduce prime numbers in a stupid way. Now, some of you are going to be like, oh, 5 is such a nice number. It's so cool. It's like 25 cents. It's like $5. It has such a good ring to it. And yes, it does. 5 has a great ring to it. 5 is a very, very good number when talking about stuff. Like, I don't give 5 cents about you, or something like this. Like, you can make stuff up with 5, but let me tell you something. It's all because we are living in this decimal world where 5 is just half of 10. So it's like middle ground of all numbers. This is the only thing remarkable about 5. There is nothing else. If we were living in some hexadecimal system, 8 would be the same in the middle, and 8 would have all the cool stuff that 5 is introducing right now. Cool stuff in quotation marks, of course, because 5, you're nothing, man. 5, you suck.
Oh, what a burn for 5. I just gotta say, like, I'm gonna kill it. Like, literally, your description of 5, the only thing that invoked in me is the realization for another reason why 4 is cool. Like, 5 was so subjugated by 4, I even forgot about it while you were describing it. I just realized that, so 5 is prime, right? And 2 and 3 were prime. 1 doesn't count because it's this special category on its own. 4 is the first non-prime number. Because up until 4, being prime is not the weird one, it's the only one. And 4 is the first non-prime. And 5, what does it do? It goes back to primeness. We just discovered not being prime, we just discovered composite. And you decide to go back to being prime. What an ape you are, 5.
5, man. 5. Oh, it makes me angry, man. You know why it makes me angry? I'll give you another reason, you know? So far we said that 2 has the worst visual representation, right? Well, once you look 2 in the mirror, it's 5.
5 is like a lazy number. 5 just kept on being prime even after discarded compositeness. 5 is just kind of an upside weird 2 when you write it. 5 is just in the shadow of 10 anyway. 5 is just a bad number. Only thing going for it, which I can't really put my finger on what's going on there, is this whole thing with like teams being teams of 5 in some games. It just works really well. Like, I'm thinking computer games. So often it's a party of 5 people. Like in MMORPGs, you always have like a tanky healer and 3 DPS people. And in MOBAs like Dota and League of Legends, you always have like, 3 lanes with 5 players. So there's something cool about 5 that's kind of psychological about us as humans, but I'm not sure what it is.
I will tell you what it is. So we have that 1 is like the solitary number, then we have 2, which is a pair, 3, which introduces the majority, and 4 introduces 2 pairs. So it's extra cool. 4 is super cool for this thing. Like, you have 4 people, they're like you have two pairs, and then like you can arrange them in different ways. So you have a total of like 6 pairs, 6 unique pairs, right? Right? Yeah. Is that true?
Well, yes, it is. It is true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Choose
it's
2
4
4.
times 3 divided by 2. Yeah, so you can mix and match the people in so many ways with 4 people, and then everybody is happy and everything is cool, and then you have 5. Why these games work in 5? Because it breaks this. It's like you can't be 2 and 2. You can't be like one by one. You have to make some weird mix, so there is something strange going on. And if you're talking about Defense of the Ancients, or as we called it, Dota. So if you're talking about Dota, there are 3 lanes. So 3, why? Because it's a really cool number, man. 3. You have 3 lanes, and then they're like, okay, so let's see how we can break this and make the game more interesting. Let's make 5 players play it, and it just like makes it a bit strange with 5 players, because you always have 2 players sticking out somewhere, and they have to look for places to be and so on.
Which is what actually introduces the complexity into those games, right? Like, because if there's 3 players, 3 lanes, there's no free people.
Yeah, because 5 fits very badly into everything.
So literally it's used because it doesn't fit well. Fucking
Yes.
5, man. Let's just forget about 5.
Yeah, so 5. Would 5 make it in the top 10? I don't think so. I don't think 5 deserves a spot.
Seems like it's time for your take on 6. It's a great number. 6 is a strong contender.
6. Okay, guys. Welcome to the show of the 6. So 6, why the show of the 6? Because I only wanted to make this episode so I can introduce 6. Everybody needs to know about 6. 6 is the best number there is, except for like several other numbers. But 6 is so cool. I'll start from the obvious one. 6 is 2 times 3. Why is this cool? Well, we know that 2 is very cool. We know that 3 is very cool, and they are different elements. And so far, when we try to multiply stuff, we tried 2 by 2, we tried every number by 1, and we found out it's useless. And then we have 2 by 2, which is 4. Then the first time we try to multiply 2 numbers which are not 1 is 2 times 3, and it gives 6. So 6 is the first number which is composed of multiplication of 2 different numbers which are playing fair. Think about this. We know 2 is very cool. We know 3 is very cool. And now 6 has many of those good sides about them. First of all, it's even, like a 2. You can divide it by many different numbers. You can divide by 1, by 2, by 3, by 6. Now, you can divide by 4 different things. For some of you, it may be common knowledge, but there was this guy, Euler. He invented this function, phi, Euler's phi, and it was very cool because it showed basically the coolness of each number when it comes to dividers. What does it show? Phi of 1 is 1 because it could only be divided by 1. Phi of 2 is 2 because it could be divided by 1 and 2. Phi of 3 is 2 again because it could be divided by 1 and 3. Phi of 4 is 3. That's why 4 was so cool, by the way, because it could be divided by 1, 2, and 4. Very interesting. And then we had 5. It was a very dumb number because, as every other prime number, phi of 5 is 2. It's divided only by itself and by 1. And then we have 6. Phi of 6 is 4. It could be divided by 1, by 2, by 3, and by 6. Imagine how cool this is. You have a table of 6 people, and you can divide it by 1, so everybody could be together. You can have 3 pairs of 2 people, or 2 pairs of 3 people, or you can have like everybody on their own. There's so many different scenarios, so many different things you can do. It's unimaginably cool. You know, you've ever heard of like this thing a dozen, and a dozen is 12 people, and 12 is very cool because it's very similar to 6 in all these manners, because it could be divided by 2, 3, 4, and so on. So it's very cool, but it's too big, right? It goes outside of the scope. And 6, half a dozen, like it's not a coincidence, guys. 6 is the ultimately cool number. Whenever you have to do stuff with other people, there should be 6 people, 6 pairs of stuff. You buy your cutlery, and it comes in a pair of 6. You have 6 forks, 6 knives, 6 spoons. This is no coincidence. 6 is the ultimate number for humanity. And I have nothing against 6. Okay, there is one thing that I thought about just now. You can't have a majority vote when you have 6 people, but nobody's perfect, and we should totally support 6 for the win.
But you can have 2 majority votes because it's 2 times 3.
Indeed.
And actually, just to bolster that point a bit, how 5, 6 is 4 is the highest so far because you can divide it in so many different configurations. Not just that, if you're thinking about groups of people doing things, you can also split 6 into 2 plus 4 with addition. And like so many games we already said are played with 4 people, and so many games are just played with 2, like I don't know, chess or something. So it's super easy to separate into a group game for 4 people and say a chess table. In our pensioners club, that's basically what we do. Don't judge. So, okay, 6 was a very good number indeed.
Absolutely outstanding.
Not just that, Iliya's favorite podcaster, CGP Grey, has made this whole video about why hexagons, 6-sided regular figures, are the bestagons. So he's super biased. Iliya loves 6. It represents hexagons.
Way before hexagons. I loved 6 way before that.
And then we discovered hexagons are bestagons.
They are.
For many reasons. So 6 is a very strong contender. I agree. Well, why is it cool? Because it's useful, right? 6 is the utility number. 6 is the worker number. You can have all sorts of kind of trade with 6 because, if you're making deliveries of some sort of physical goods, you have to package them in some way and then be able to distribute bits of them to different customers. 6 is a very good number for this. 6 is a worker number. Now, why am I giving this whole description for 6? Because I'm introducing 7. Because 7 is every bit the opposite. 7 is the edgiest number. 7 is the least easy to work with number when you're actually, thinking of practicalities. Like 6 was very good for grouping in pairs of all sizes and doing some sort of commercial activity. Say 7 is prime. It's too large to be one of those very significant numbers like 2 or 3. You know how we said 5 is kind of a boring number. It just reintroduced for the 3rd time primeness. And then there's 6, which is super useful, and 7 does it again. And at this point, it's not, lame and non-imaginative like with the 5. At this point, it's very much on purpose. 7 already saw that 5 is lazy. 7 saw that 5 is lame. And 7 was like, you know what? I'm gonna just screw with this system. If 5 could get away with it, I'm gonna be like a 5. Fuck it. So it just became yet another prime number. Literally 0 new concepts introduced. For 5, we could at least give the argument of like being kind of half of 10. We live in a decimal system mostly. It kind of makes sense. 7, nothing at all. And it's on purpose. 7 is just an edgy number. And to support this point of view, just look at how it's written with Arabic numerals. It's literally an edge. It's the symbol for 7 is an edge. So overall, 7 is so utterly pointless that it's cool.
Yeah, what can I say, man? 7 is very edgy. I would never, ever, ever, ever add it in my top 5, nor my top 7. 7 is a number for people that are trying to be cool And they're like, oh, my favorite number is 7. You know what? Everybody's favorite number is 7, so you're not cool. You have to pick a different number. When everybody is edgy, you're not edgy. So 7 is not heaven. Now,
7 is not heaven.
now I have to give it to 7 for two things. First, when you write 7, what you said is an edge, but actually I write it in a different way. So it's basically bringing this from the 4, the unambiguity of writing it. So I basically cross it out, and I always imagine it as this mustache. So 7 is so cool, it has a mustache and it's flexing it. And then the last one is 7 has a very, very strong cultural support. Sorry to say this, but if a king doesn't have 3 sons, he definitely has 7 sons. He would never have 5 sons. Always 7. Then there are 7 mountains, and then you remember the creature with the 3-headed creature. If it has more than 3 heads, there's 7 definitely. 7 is a very, very strong number in culture, religion, and so on, because it's so edgy.
Yeah, you heard it here first, kids. Religion is edgy.
Hey, are you enjoying the show? Well, let me be a 5 for you. No, let me be a 9 for you and break the flow with an ad. Ugh. Now, this ad comes from a company which is called Triveta.com. Triveta with a 3 in the name. How cool is that? Is 3 gonna make the top 3? I don't know, man, but Triveta is surely in the top 3 of my favorite companies. Triveta is the go-to solution for providing services online. No matter if you're a consultant, lawyer, coach, or you simply want to have a side hustle online that requires a paid online meeting, Triveta has everything that you need, starting from a website through calendar, scheduling meetings, hosting video, everything on your own domain. It's so cool. It's more like a one now that I think about it. It has everything inside of it. How about that? How about you check out Triveta.com once we're done with this show, huh? Hmm? 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 Yeah, okay. Yeah, totally. Totally incepted this in your brain. Do it. Okay, man. Now, without further ado, I would like you to give it up for 8.
Okay, so I picked 8 just to bash it. You know, that's just full
Whoa.
disclosure before that. 8 is a bad number because it thinks it's good, but it's not. Let's see at what 8 brings to the table. Do you remember how 4 flexed on 2 because it was 2 plus 2 and 2 times 2? And then 8 is like, well, look at me, I'm 4 plus 4, and 4 was that person, that number for 2. So it's just repeating 4's cool point with 4 itself, but that's already old. 4 already did that. Don't do it 8. It's not worth it. So 4 6th addition, because 8 6th addition, because it's just 4 plus 4, and for multiplication, what is it? 2 times 4. Well, guess what? Multiplying 2 different numbers. 6 already showed us this with 2 times 3, so that's already borrowed from 6. Or does it show multiplying 3 numbers together? 2 times 2 times 2. That's again like the situation like with 4. It's already done by adding 2 numbers. You're just extending it in a boring way. You know, oh, you can add 3 numbers together. Well, guess what? 3 was 1 plus 1 plus 1 as well. So basically, so far, 8 pretends to bring a bunch of things to the table, but it brings nothing. Now, the one thing that we could potentially say that it brings is that it's the first cube, except 1. So it's like 2 to the 3rd. But this is exactly the same as being a square, so 4, just extended a bit. So it does to 4 exactly the same things as with addition, with being a cube. It just takes whatever 4 achieved and extends it in some tiny, boring way and pretends to be cool. And the final stroke against 8 is that point about, writing them as numerals and them not being cool numerals. 8 looks like a very cool numeral. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's like sleek and stuff. But what is this? Just 2 zeros stacked. It doesn't even have its own recognizable character is just 2 zeros stacked. That's it. So 8 does not have my respect.
Such a diss, man. Yeah.
Here we have gathered to spend our time dissing digits.
Unfortunately for me, it's very hard to argue, but I will try. So, first of all, cubes, yes, they're extending what squares are, but then again, they're showing a pattern. It's like kind of solidifying this knowledge, right? That you can have the same number multiplied by itself once, or you can have it twice, like 2 by 2 by 2. And it's 2 to the third power, which, 2 and 3 are cool numbers, so 8 is 2 to the third. And kind of cool, no? Now, about the sign, man. 8, shitty sign, but there's this infinity sign. So 8 is just the infinity sign rotated to 90 degrees, which can make it cool in a way because it's kind of infinity, but knowing it's nothing like infinity makes it a bit odd. Now, the smarter of you are gonna point out that infinity actually stole the sign from 8, and that would be a correct statement. Yeah, I think infinity is flexing it much better than 8. So, sorry 8, you sucked at that too. And finally, about the cube, I have to say, cubes are cool. Cubes are cool because squares are even in a multiplication way, and cubes are odd in a multiplication way, which makes it a bit cool. You have 8, and it's like a square, but it's not a square, and this is something cool, isn't it? You of all people, you the supporter of 7, should be able to appreciate this. It's like, it looks like a cube, but it's not a cube. And then, you know what? If you take the square root of 8, it's 2 square root 2, which is cool, man. It's 2 times the square root of 2. The whole thing to the square. It's just 3 2's together in a new way. So it's cool, man. And the last point is it's a cube, true, and it's a very small cube. It's actually a 1-digit cube, which is cool on its own. Sorry, I have to say it. It's the only one-digit cube.
Except, you know who? 1. Classic 1 move. 1
No.
has literally all the achievements ever.
all the accolades. This, we should make a thumbnail of this, and it's 1, and 1 has many medals and accolades on top of
It's
it.
like any of those competitions for different ways in which a number could be cool. All of them are, you're fighting for the second place because 1 already claimed first place because it's 1 in its first anyway. So you're fighting for second place.
Okay, so what is 9? 9 is a cool number, guys. It's cool. It's 3 times 3, so it's a square. It's 6 plus 3, and 6 and 3 were very cool numbers. And you have, it looks like a cube, but it's not. Like, you just it just came after 8, and you're like, okay, I just saw what is 2 to the cube. Like, what is the cube of 2? Probably you're the cube of 3, but not. It's the square of 3. Well, trying to be cool, trying very hard. Wants to be 8, wants to be 6, wants to be 4 because it's a square. Wants to be many things. 9 is a very ambitious number. I think 9 will never quit trying. Even in culture, when 7 mountains are not enough, you have 9 mountains. 9 trying to be good. 9 is, you have 3 trilogies and you have 9, good number, decent number. A number that has dignity, unlike 7. Now, I'm done rooting for 9. I don't know. You're not saying anything, man.
I was waiting for you to be done, like trying to defend this puny number. It's like, if I had to vote worst of all the numbers so far, 9 is by far the worst. No, we had 5. We had fucking 5, and 9 is somehow worse. Because 5 at least was like, you know what, I'll be lazy. It's like the god of laziness. But maybe that's cool. Maybe 5 is just chilling on a beach somewhere. 9 tried to be useful and failed. So it's a square, okay, just like 4. And it's a square of two identical numbers, just like 4. And that's even after we have seen being the multiplication of two different numbers, which is 6. We have even seen a cube, and it's trying to exemplify being a square. This is so weak.
It's an odd square, man. It's an odd square. Shows a pattern. Give it to 9. Come on, man.
Shows
Give some
the
love.
worst, the worst pattern ever. 9 is just bad. And you know what also? It's like we have almost gotten to 10. 10 is a complete breaker of rules. It has 2 digits. It's like a different beast. And 9 is like this one last step that we have to take before we actually reach the cooler numbers like 10. It's like 10 minus 1. And for writing it, it's literally 6 upside down, because they didn't even, whoever made up the Arabic numerals as to how to write them, they didn't even want to be bothered to think about how to write 9. Imagine them on a Friday afternoon, they had a task in the office to figure out how to write numbers. Probably some accountants, I don't know, I wasn't there. Maybe I was, I don't know. And they're like, 1 is going to be this cool symbol, just like a dash and stuff, and then 2, blah, blah. And then they reach 9. They're like, oh man, it's like 5:45 p.m. I don't want to be bothered. Let's just take the 6, turn it upside down. It's a 9 now. Let's call it a day. Ciao. So that's just 9. Super lame from everywhere, and not even lazy on purpose like the 5. So that's why so far for me 9 is the worst number.
Okay.
And finally, just to say this, somebody had to say it. There were 9 rings to the kings of men in the Middle Earth. They gave to the elves, the high elves, they gave 3 rings. 3 is a good number. To the dwarves, they gave 7. Cool and edgy, just like the dwarves. And to men, they gave 9. And they were like the most corrupting rings. That's on purpose.
It's a very human number, 9. It's very human. Let's go to the last number, which is a part of the competition, 0. When somebody picks 1, they feel so good about themselves. They're like, oh, I've won this race. But I'll tell you something, 1, you're nothing without none. Oh. Okay, so why is 0 cool? Well, all of these cool things that you've heard about 1, 0 has them. Some of them, most of them. Not all of them, but some of them. Now, 1 shows that something is there. It's the 1, it's the identity. 0 means no identity, no 1, none.
It has many faces, nothing, none, no one, null, not.
It is very needed, very, very important, because no other number would mean anything if we couldn't define the absence of numbers. Now, 0 is also very cool in the way you can write it as a circle. This is very cool. Like all these other numbers, they were stealing this feature. You have 6 and you have 8. They just want to be cool with this circle inside, but actually it's reserved for the 0, guys. You know what's cooler? If you don't write any number, it's definitely 0. There's nothing. So 0 is everywhere. Everywhere you have 1, you also have 0. It's like matter and antimatter. You just need that 0 to make everything full. And then we go to computer science. And the simplest way we can talk about numbers, introduce numbers, and think about ideas and design processors and computers. Like, you need that 0. You need the 0 as the opposite of 1. Yeah, I think 0 is the most underrated number. I believe many people, when they think about numbers, they disregard the 0, and I find this offensive. But we simply have to give this accolades, all these accolades we were giving to 1, we need to give them to 0. And I urge you people, when you vote, when you make your vote next time and you're completely sure that 1 is the best number, place that 0 after him because it deserves to be there in top 3.
Okay, so 0, we can't say anything bad about 0. We don't want trouble with 0 because 0 is not just like so good in various ways. 0 is also, kind of creepy. Like, if I was looking at the numbers, if I think about a 6, whatever, if I'm on 6 bad list, what's gonna do to me? It's a fucking 6. 0, it's mysterious. 0 can fuck me up in ways I cannot imagine. There's something creepy and mysterious about 0. And I'll tell you why. It's because 0 is the other side of the coin to infinity, right? So remember how 2 and 3 were kind of the two sides of the same coin, even and odd numbers, the two first useful building blocks, basically 2 numbers after 1 that you can combine into other numbers such as 6. So 2 and 3 are the two sides of the same coin. In the same way, 0 and infinity are the two sides of the same coin, because infinity is 1 over 0 and 0 is 1 over infinity. So kind of through multiplication or division, let's say, they're opposites. And conceptually, it's not. So, okay, in some countries, 0 is part of the natural numbers. In some countries, it's not. Depends on the particular definition that you use. But let's say for us, natural numbers start at 1 because there's numbers you count with, 1, 2, 3, etc. And 0 is not one of the natural numbers.
It's supernatural.
Yes, precisely. It's supernatural. It introduces infinity. That's what it does. And so 0 is the first, I think, truly mysterious number, because those 3 and 7 and kind of 9 are maybe religious and spiritual in some way. They were used throughout history. But 0 is the first, really weird number. 0 is the first number that exemplifies an operation being non-valid, because you can always add 2 numbers, you can always multiply 2 numbers, you can always subtract 2 numbers, but you're not guaranteed that you can divide 2 numbers, because you can't divide by 0, because you get infinities, right? And so that's the first time you can't do it.
I just want to say division is the worst operation, but that's for another time.
Unless you're a 6, then you're pretty chill with division, because everybody divides you except fucking 5, but screw 5. Okay, 4.
Oh man, we will have to bleep so much of what you're saying.
But are we aiming to be PG-13? Is that a thing?
Yeah, we have to be, because Apple Podcasts are gonna bring us down if we're not.
Oh, Apple, come on. I'm literally talking about how cool numbers are. Are you gonna censor me for real?
Censorship, man. Censorship, they make you say 0 things.
No.
I think this was a very fruitful discussion. We have one more number that you wanted to discuss, and it's 10. So why is 10 an important number?
Yeah, so 10, you know how we said, let's talk about basically the digits. There's 10 of them, 0 through 9, and then every other number you can compound from those in a decimal system, which most of us use in our everyday lives. And so 10 is this number that, yeah, it's not a digit, but it's very important because it brings something truly new to the table. We saw how, say, 9 didn't bring anything new to the table, not a single thing. All the concepts it brings, like being a square, being odd, blah, blah, have already been exemplified. Whereas 10 is the last number to bring, the highest number, to bring something truly radically new to the table. And that's the concept of sticking digits together, of course working decimal, to make larger numbers. So you take 1 and 0, both of them some of the strongest contenders for coolest numbers so far, and you glue them together and you make a new number. So remember the story I was telling about 9, how this poor accountant clerk, 5:45 p.m. on a Friday, want to go home, and they had to designate a symbol for 9, and they were lazy, and they were like, oh, it's just going to be upside down 6. Well, 10 is the first number that completely shatters this. It's a new number, but it doesn't need any new symbols. It's the first number that says, you know what? I don't need my own symbol. I can make it, and I can make it from already established cool symbols. So how much cooler is to take a 1 and a 0 and combine them than make your own new symbol like 9, which sucks anyway. Now, before this turns into a full-on bash on 9 yet again, so 10 is cool about this, and then just because we live in a decimal world, everything we count is in decimal. The base that we use decimal, there's 10 digits, 0 through 9, and how many fingers do we have in our hands? 10. How many toes do we have? 10. There's something not simply, in abstract math and us being in a decimal system. There's something very evolutionary about this number. If we have 10 fingers and 10 toes, there's something special evolutionarily about this number. What do you think?
I think you just made a strong point about 5, that we have 5 fingers. But I'm gonna ignore it. Sorry.
Sorry, 5.
Yeah, sorry, 5. 10, I don't know, man. 10, very strong. I don't think it's admissible to add 10 to this competition, mainly because adding it would mean that we have 11 contenders. Completely the opposite statement of like what you just said, that 10 has this intrinsic value, so on. We have 10 contenders, and that's why we don't talk about 10.
But I would say that this is Zero's fault, We have 10 contenders, it's 1 through 10, and then the 11th one is the 0. That's the weird one, that's the odd guy.
Yeah, but 10 wouldn't exist without the 0, so it's Zero's fault. Yeah.
0 is the mystery, It's so necessary, and yet it just screws those counts.
Now that we have explored all of these numbers, and we know their properties, and we know their good sides, and we know all the skeletons in their closet, and we know everything we need to know about these numbers, let's vote for them. Now, I was thinking about this vote, how should we make the vote? And indeed, we have voted before on this, but in a different way. So before we were just like, maybe the coolest numbers are this and that. Now I want to have an alternative vote. So we're going to use an alternative voting system. We want to find the 3 best numbers and the 3 worst numbers. So you have to vote for the 3 best and you have to vote for the 3 worst. And then we compare notes and we see what is what. Okay, let's start writing. I'm ready.
Me too.
What are your 3 best numbers?
So in 3rd place, we have number 1. It's a very good number, it's the basis for everything ever, but it's just too obvious of a choice. So it gets to it in top 3, but not the winner. Not even number 2, because who's number 2? It's the mystery entrant to this competition. It's 0. So number 2 is 0. Very cool, very mysterious, breaks everything ever, including division. Finally, what's my number 1 best number? 3. I vote 3.
Okay, man. Good for you.
What are yours?
In 3rd place, I have placed number 0, mystery 0. So it gets a 3rd place, so it will definitely not be the winner of this competition. Now, in 2nd place, I place number 6. 6 is a very good number. I believe it's the most useful number you need to know. However, not as cool as number 1, which is not 1. I haven't placed 1 on the first spot. I have placed number 3. I agree with you.
There's a crushing win from 3.
I really believe number 3 is a very cool number. Yeah, everything about 3 is cool.
Once again, this podcast has been funded by Triveta.com.
Yeah, so it's not a coincidence that we chose our name to have a 3, because 3 is very, very, very cool. It was before we had this discussion. It's just subconsciously cool, which makes it extra cool. Now, 3 is the winner of this game show. However, second place goes to number 0, the mystery one, the supernatural one, and then according to these votes, third place goes to number 6
And 1.
because it was my
Oh, it
second
was
best.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
but
true.
6 was my second
true.
best. So 1 did not make it into the top 3. I'm very happy about it. I intentionally did not put it there because it's unfair. It's not fair to game the system 1. So sorry.
Yeah, 1 is like a cheater, like a hacker on a game server.
1 is like a hacker, yeah. And 6, very decent. I'm very happy with your performance, 6.
So okay, to summarize, 306. That's what we have.
Yeah, 306.
Now for the real competition, what's the worst 3 numbers? What's your selection?
Yeah, so third place, third worst goes to number 8. 8, solid number, but not the worst. Let's say you're not the worst. In second place, I placed the one that I have bashed publicly so far, and I really don't like. It's number 5. Number 5. Number 5 has this very strong support. Maybe the fact that we have 5 fingers, they turned me, and I didn't place it last. But yeah. And now, number 1, worst number on my list. You have successfully, completely disgusted me. And it's number 9. Number 9 is the worst number on my list.
Oh, whoa. Now, having heard your selection, so yours are basically from best to worst, they go 8, 5, 9, right? And 9 is the absolute worst for you. This is in absolutely all essence basically the same as my selection, except for me I have said 5, 8, 9. So I have said that the third worst number is 5, second worst number is 8, and the absolute worst number is 9, which means that both for absolute best number and for absolute worst number we have agreement. They're 3 and 9, because 9, voted democratically, by the way, 9 voted the absolute worst number unanimously. Why is it the worst one? Because it tries to steal some of 3's thunder, and 3 is just the best. You can't touch 3. So 9 just lost like very heavily. And 8 and 5 have to share the second worst place. This might even be worse than 9, to be honest. 8 and 5 couldn't even decide which one was worse, so we somehow voted them to be equally bad. They're just, you guys are bad numbers, we can't justify your existence. You're not as hateable as 9, but you still make the public list of shame of being a bad number. 8 and 5, shame on you.
Yeah, man. 5 is a bad number. Okay. So this concludes our game show. We're so happy that you tuned in.
I would like to know, I imagine that if the podcast somehow becomes famous and enough people listen to it, I'm absolutely certain that people will be able to bring very interesting points in this discussion, because the whole discussion is kind of ridiculous, but it'll bring many kind of good fundamental points for like, what is multiplication, what is addition, whatever. And or like, for example, these geometric facts that 3 points make a surface. And so I'm absolutely certain that we have missed so many potential ways in which we can present some numbers cool, because it introduces some cool concept in some other science or field of study, etc. So I actually really hope that enough people hear this episode and they somehow reach out to us and tell us something cool about a number, how they think about this number, how do they represent it, how they justify its place to be one of the first 10 numbers.
You heard it. Tweet it, Iskren. Whenever you have a cool idea, just like tweet publicly at him or any other social media handle that you find of him.
Literally, I have no Twitter and I have a private Instagram.
Yeah, send him emails. Guys, stay very interested in numbers. Maths is cool. It's very cool because it introduces us to all these interesting numbers, interesting concepts, interesting ways in which they communicate with each other, in which they intertwine. Then we use these numbers to actually make much cooler stuff. This podcast has been brought to you by like zeros and ones.
Represent! I spend my days shamelessly advertising Thriveta to anyone around me who would listen, so now I'm going to change strategies and let the numbers tell you more about it instead. Number 1. Scheduling, booking, a public website, video meetings, payments for them, all in one place. This is Thriveta. Anything you ever need to meet clients online and get paid for it, it's in one place, thriveta.com. Number 2. That's the number of people in your first free Thriveta meeting. Just call a friend and have a test one-on-one meeting to check the system out, and then you can take it off from there. Number 3, that obviously stands for Thriveta. It's literally in our name, the best number 3. Number 4, this is the number of core services that are seamlessly integrated in the product. Your calendar, your website, your online video, and your payments, all seamlessly integrated. Number 5, it takes just 5 minutes to set up your whole online presence with Thriveta and start getting paid for your time. Number 6, that's how many people I challenge you to tell about Thriveta to spread the word. As we've seen, 7 is the edgy number and wants to be different. With Thriveta, you can be too. You can customize everything to have your branding, colors, logos, etc. 8 and 9, I'm kind of running out of ideas here, and also they're kind of bad numbers as we've seen, so I'm not even going to acknowledge them. Let's just skip them over. To go to the last one, number 10, you know how to do X. Let's say you know how to draw. You explain to 10 people how to do X in an hour online. Each one of them paid, let's say, $50 for that. And suddenly, that's $500 in your bank account right away with no technological effort on your side whatsoever. How amazing is that?